Hello and welcome to another episode from the Water's Edge, and you join us today at Reepham Fisheries for a short afternoon's fishing in what has been already, in a short period of time, an extremely variable day. 20 minutes ago it was hailing and raining, and now the clouds have broken and the sun's come out, so it's time to get some filming done. But we've had a few casts already and a few fish, and we're fishing something slightly different than we have before. So I'm going to concentrate on getting this fish in, and then we'll talk to you a lot more detail about what we're doing over the next few hours. There we go. Hopefully he's not going to be the biggest one of the day, but a nice fish all the same. And it's just nice, to be honest, to have that sun out after getting rained on and hailed on for 20-30 minutes. My gear's all soaked. It's nice to feel a bit of warmth and to be catching a few fish. So like I said, bit of a perfection in miniature, that one. I'm sure there's going to be bigger ones, but we'll get this one slipped in the net and then we'll talk you through exactly what we're up to. Okay, so let's talk you through exactly what we're doing here today. And about 2 weeks ago now, we had an email from our friends at Top Baiter saying that they've developed a slight twist on the product that we used before. If you follow our channel, you probably see us use the Top Baiter float, but they've actually now invented this thing here, which they've called the mini baiter, which is pretty much a smaller version, which is designed and targeted at match/coarse anglers, which is much more the sort of style of fishing that I do. And the other one worked absolutely brilliantly, and if you've not seen it before, check those videos out. But it is quite big, and it would be, you know, just as at home for carp anglers as it would as coarse anglers, but this one is really targeting sort of these match anglers. And having a couple of chucks of it already, the slight scaling down of it and the finesse of it has been really, really good. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the actual product and what it is. So it's actually a float and a bait delivery system all in one. So the cage here at the bottom is which you can load up with whatever bait you choose, and I'll come on to what bait I'm doing a bit later in the video. But you load that up, and then the top bit here is actually the float section. So as this crashes in, your bait comes out, and then your hook bait sits just underneath it. I've chose to fish it up in the water today, and I'm only fishing perhaps, I don't know, 10-12 inches deep, because they're really attacking this cage with the food in it. So it's a really neat way of presenting bait right where you're casting. And for me personally, it comes in perfect time to use it, as if you struggle to really accurately feed the catapult and perhaps pellet waggler fishing, you struggle with that. This will alleviate all those problems, because you don't have to feed the catapult. You haven't got to take your hand off the rod and reel. You just fish away and deliver your bait as you cast in. So it's really accurate and pretty effective at the same time. Now, to fix it onto line, I've just slided it in between two float stops either side. And then, like I said, I've got a 6 to 8 inch hook link, which I've separated a little bait band on there, size 14 hooks, and nothing particularly complicated how you set it up. It's more about how it delivers the bait right on where you're fishing as you cast it in the water. So I'm looking at it there now, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be too long to get another one. So we'll get this loaded up and fired out there. Now I'm just going with banded pellet, just because it's, you know, my go-to bait fishing up in the water is banded pellet. I'm going to load this cage up. Like I said, we'll go into more details in that in a second. I just want to, like all anglers, I want to get out there and catch another one, I think. And then we're going to fire it out to the spot. I'm fishing clipped up, so it's going to hit the clip, and then it's fishing the same spot. So you're delivering that bait the same spot all the while, and I don't think it's going to be too long before we're into another one. Well, as I said, I told you it wouldn't take long. I knew that because I can see fish feeding on the spot as the few chucks I had before we came on camera with you. And it just, the last time I fished the actual top baiter, amazed me the feeding reaction that we got out of it. Now, it's definitely got something to do with the bait I'm putting in it and the way that it creates a cloud, which again I'm going to go more into once I've landed this fish. But it's, as far as I'm aware, match style wise, this is the only way that I can deliver this style of bait and get this kind of feeding reaction. I saw it last time and this has been no different. It really does they just go mental. They're absolutely insane for it. And one of the things that we got asked when we done the first one, and I asked myself, would they be scared of the float? You know, it's a basket there. It's not like a real neat pole float, but they just really aren't. If anything, they end up bashing into it, trying to get to the bait before the others, and that's what you're on about. That's the feeding reaction you want to catch, pushing each other away, waiting to get to your hook bait. But this one's nearly done now, so I'll concentrate on getting him in, and then we can have a look at the baits. There we go, all of a matter of a few seconds fishing out there again, and we've got another one, a little common this time, not much bigger than the other one, but another fish. And I think that that's certainly what the modifications have done and made this float slightly smaller. It really has brought it into the market for, you know, smaller fish. I see quite a few F1s out there. I actually had one earlier, so you know, it's even going to be fine for smaller match fish that perhaps the bigger one might have been slightly too big for. But yeah, it's been really, really good. Another mega fish, and this sunshine is even better. If it stays like this for the afternoon, that'll be me happy catching a few fish. But we'll get this one slipped back, and we'll get talking to you about the baits we're using for today. Right, okay, so let's take a look at the baits we've chosen to use today. Now, originally in the bigger top baiter version, I think the first time I used it, I actually used some floating pellets and fished on the surface. That worked incredibly well. Again, they just went absolutely crazy for it. And then the second time I used it, I used sloppy groundbait, and I think it's fair to say that I'd not seen a feeding reaction as good as that for an awful long time. So I'm going with it again today. I'm using sloppy groundbait, and the idea came from because I do quite a lot of carp fishing where carp anglers will fire out like big zigs fished at like 10 foot deep in 11 foot of water, say, and then they'll spod sloppy groundbait over the top, and the fish come up and they just get so engrossed in the cloud that they almost lose control, and they're climbing over each other trying to find something to eat, and then literally the only thing there is your pellet hanging just below the basket. You can see a huge plume now of cloudy groundbait across that, and that's why it's so effective. And I'm pretty sure, hopefully we can pick it up on camera, when this hits the water, those fish just go mental for it. And it's the fact that your hook bait is the only one, that's a big plus. I have got a handful perhaps of micros and half a handful of 4mm pellets in my sloppy groundbait. You could put what you wanted in it, you know, you could put some corn, you could put some hemp, but I really like the fact that I keep the food holes really, really small. The fact the better the cloud it makes, you know, the more fish you're going to catch. So just normal groundbait, literally oversaturate it, completely drain it, wet it so it goes really like liquid, leave it for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, it'll stiffen up, add some more water until you get, you know, a consistency that is just really, really sloppy. You know, if you throw that in the edge, it just gets a massive cloud, and that's what you need. And then to the end of that, all I've added is a little bit of cloudy liquid as well, so it's extra flavouring, extra cloud effect, and I think that's what's making, you know, a real difference with it. And then this is where I was saying the cage, that's the reason why this float is so good, because it allows me to actually fire that out there. And apart from, you know, like a spod, which I said when I'm carp fishing, I can't think of another way I could get that bait out there with my hook bait hanging just below it. And I'm gonna whip this out there now and perhaps see if we can get one while we're talking to you. So I'm fishing it against the clip. It's quite important to make sure you hit the same, there you go. So you hit the same spot every time, because you want to make sure that, you know, the more you cast this float, you just create a bigger cloud, a bigger buzz effect around it, and the more fish you pull in towards it. So fish it against the clip. And another thing I would say, as you probably saw there, is don't strike. The float is heavy enough for them to hook themselves against. So it's a case of literally hit it against the clip and then just hold your rod at a slight angle, and almost like you would if you quivered it, wait for it to go round. You know, there's so many fish jumping over top of each other here. If you were trying to strike, I'm sure you'd miss a few different fish. And yeah, just make sure you leave it, wait for a positive bite, and let them hook themselves. But this one is nearly in now. And actually, what I was talking about earlier with you, this one is a little F1, so it proves that the smaller mini beta is really effective for those slightly smaller fish, and he had no problem hooking himself against that. I've been fishing a big 8mm pellet. He's gone so mad in that cloud of groundbait that he's grabbed it and he's hooked himself. So really is pretty effective for fish of all sizes. But we'll get this one to slip back and then we'll get another bait out there. There's another fish, and we've been fishing now for, I don't know, we've had a couple of hours at it. It looks like a mean looking cloud coming over, so I'm not looking forward to if it starts raining again. But it has just been absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen so many fish feeding and jumping over each other like that when the float hits the water. There's like a real nest of F1s moved in, with amongst, you know, the odd carp as well, but it really does prove that I think the finesse of this float being slightly smaller is a real sort of plus side to it, because certainly a lot of these smaller fish have got no problem at all of attacking that float and then hooking themselves against the weight of it. But it might be worth, while I'm just, this one's actually a little common, while I'm just netting this one, like I said, if this rain comes in, I don't know how much longer we're going to give it, but it might be worth just talking you through a couple of pointers if it's not quite as good as this. I know that sounds crazy saying, but I'll show you this one. He's hooked really well. He wasn't coming off. Beauty about self-hooking them is you get them for hardly any foul hookers. He's angry with his fin up, but yeah, a lot of these sort of style of fish, sort of 2 to 3 pound, a couple of slightly bigger, and then a lot of F1s as well. So very, very good. But I'll slip that one in the net, and then I'll talk to you about a couple of tips, like I said, that I'll give in case it isn't that good. So let's be honest here, Reepham is probably one of the best fisheries I've ever fished, and you just don't get this reaction everywhere. You know, this method, there has to be a lot of fish for it to work. It's not the sort of method I would fish, not sloppy groundbait. I wouldn't fish that if I was, you know, fishing for 1 or 2 bites a day, because I just don't think that's the way forward. But with this float, experiment with baits. You know, I've got some pellets here, I've got some corn here. Try different things if you want. Like I said, I think this sloppy groundbait really when it comes into its own, but that's something to try for you. Also, I'd mess around with hook baits. So by far the best one for me has just been this red pellet hung underneath a basket of absolute slot. It's a messy method. If you don't want to go home pretty clean, then this isn't the one for you. It's probably all up my back, but you know, I'd rather be catching fish. I'm not worried about that. But a little red hook bait on there, pellet. But I always take with me loads of these Hinders booster pellets in different flavours, different colours, different sizes, because that can make a real difference. You know, like 1 or 2 different colours and flavours. And then the other thing as well, I know, I mean, you can probably see as we're fishing, they're literally jumping over each other. But if it wasn't going as many, mess around with the depths as well. So you could fish, there's another one, you could fish 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot deep, you know, mess around with it and try and find out where they are, because they're not always going to be this high. Today we're fishing sort of 8 to 10 inches maximum, because we, you know, with them fish literally waiting for it, we need to be fishing high up in the water. But certainly those few tips, experiment with hook baits, experiment with depths, and also if you are going to go down this sloppy groundbait method, make sure you cast regularly. You need to keep that cloud in the surface layers. That's why it's as good as it is, that's why it's going as crazy as it is. is because I'm constantly casting. If I don't have a bite within 2 minutes, let's say, I'm casting out there again and I'm getting more cloud out there. So I'm going to concentrate on getting this one in. I'm going to have a few more fish, I'm sure, and then if we can beat the rain, we will call it a success. And it has been mega enjoyable and just ridiculously impressive. Nice little mirror, that one. Well, I think I am going to call this the last fish. It has been ridiculous. I've fished an awful long time, a lot of times here at Reepham, and I've not seen the fish react like this to a method. I've never fished sloppy groundbait here like this up in the water. I haven't had this kind of float to do it, so maybe it's something for me to try in the future. But you know, it's not rained on us after the first initial shower setting up. I think it's time to say we've got lucky with that. The weather's been on our side and the fishing has just been so good. So I'll get this one in, we'll sign off with him, and yeah, if you've used either the old top beta or if you get out there and watch this video and use this mini beta, give us a message, see how you got on as well, because it'd be nice to hear some other people's stories. But we'll concentrate on getting this one in. Well, there we go. Probably the best looking fish of the day to end on. A nice looking ghosty. I'll show you a little look at him, but that doesn't give me an awful lot more to say, apart from it has been absolutely brilliant, thoroughly enjoyable. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. Get out there and give it a go. But for now, that's it from us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one.